Hello and welcome to the Savvy Gadgets channel with me, Ven UK. And today is a very good day for it. It's been a long time in coming, but I now have a new graphics card. It's a Gigabyte GeForce RTX 2060 Super. It has 8 gigabytes of memory and has a massive clock speed. It's fantastic. So let's unbox it and take a look at it. Right, so before we unbox this, just a few pieces of information. This came from scan.co.uk. It was the cheapest I could find it at the time, which was a couple of days ago. And the price was, and hold on to your wallets and your purses, it's £429.98, so £430. That doesn't include delivery, but it does include VAT. Now, I'd like to point out at this juncture that I'm not supported by any particular company. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't get money from Patreon, so I have paid for this myself. So I'm not getting a freebie, just to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So, having a quick look at the bits on the back, it has a so you see, we'll see that in a few minutes. We've got the plate. And the side lights up. Oh, that looks nice, and it has 3 fans on it. But then here's a layout of what you get on the back. So I'll be using the HDMI. The DP are display ports, and therefore the 4K bits and pieces. Now, I did look up what the USB-C is for, and they said this is for connecting it to a laptop. Not entirely sure why you would want to do that, but what the hey. So here we have some system requirements. I actually have an 850 watt power supply in my system, and yeah, 1.5 gigabytes of available hard drive space. I've got 2. Minimum system memory 16 gigabytes is what I've got, and that's the recommended, which is great. And I'm on Windows 10 64, but it also works with Windows 7 64 and Linux 64, which is quite important. Okay, so let's get it out of the box. Okay then, so here we are. This is my Gigabyte GeForce RTX 2060 Super. Now, before we unbox this, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel and keep up to date with all the videos. Now, I don't often get tech like this, so this one's a little bit special for me today because this has been a long time coming. I've needed a graphics upgrade for quite some time. Okay, so let's get rid of that box. It's a nice sleek black box like that. The depth of dark continues. Okay, there's a weird little box here, which carries something in it. And you will open. Okay, that's a big empty box with nothing in it. There's nothing in it. Just that, the quick start guide. Okay, slightly a bit of a wasted packaging there. And there we have the actual clip itself in an anti-static bag. So that's actually a little underwhelming. I was expecting a load of cables and stuff like that, but because that's what you usually get. You always used to. Let's have a look at this. There we go. So it's got the protective metal plate on the back, and this has 3 fans on it. Look at that. So, oh, that's interesting. It's got a cover for the PCI there. So this helps with, if you didn't know you had to take that off. Okay, and so we have on the back here, if we look at that, you've got DP, 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 and a HDMI. Now, that's the one that I'm actually interested in. You can take that out. Now, I don't quite know what a DP port is. It kind of looks like it's not indifferent to the connections you get with your hard drive, but I know that's not what that's for. So I'll have a look at that and find out what DP's for. And then you've got this one, which is, that's quite interesting because that's a USB port C. So let's put that back in there. Now I've got no idea what I would use that for at the moment, but I'm only interested in the HDMI. Let's have a quick look under here. So lots of heat pipes and a nice big heat sink. But yeah, so power connections. There we go. So you've got just there, you've got a 6 block and an 8 block. So you've got the 6 and then the 8. Now I'm pretty sure I've got those in my computer anyway. So not much to it. It's pretty disappointing as an unboxing, to be honest. Like I said, I thought there'd be lots of cables and bits and pieces, but there's absolutely nothing in this box at all, other than, you know, it's just an empty box with a user guide in it. Oh well, never mind, it's still a better graphics card. Let's put it in. My current graphics card, I can barely hear it running, so hopefully this won't be any different. And you can see all the heat sinks in it. Okay, so let's enough chat, let's get it in. Okay, so before I actually plug in my new graphics card, I want to know, what kind of performance improvement it's actually going to give me. And for that, I'm going to use 3 different pieces of software, and I'm going to do some FPS testing in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and in The Witcher 3, and in Star Citizen, just to give me an idea of how those games improve, which is a sort of a more of a real life test. So the first one, which as you can see on the screen at the moment, is FurMark. I'm downloading that from geeks3d.com, and that should give me a good idea of how my graphics card is performing. What's nice about FurMark is it gives you a rather interesting furry donut to look at, but it measures tests, and although I can only do 720 and 1080p for the presets, I can actually do some custom testing, adding anti-aliasing as I want, and at a resolution that I want. Now my native resolution for my monitor is 1920 by 1200, so that's quite useful, and they've updated it to actually support the graphics cards that I've brought, which is the RTX 2060 Super. Now, next one is this one by Unigine, and it's Superposition. Now, if you may have heard these ones before, if you have a look at these ones, I recognise this one from back in the day, but this is the 2009 version. And although I might do a little bit of testing with that, because that predates my graphics card by a few years, it'd be interesting to see how my graphics card performs when that is racked up to full. The other one, the one that is I really want to do, is obviously Superposition, because that's the newest version, and that's going to put more of a strain on my graphics card. And last but not least, I'm going to use UserBench. Now, UserBench doesn't specifically test the GPU. It tests my computer as a whole. So that will give me an idea of how my computer is performing. And it'd be interesting to see what kind of a score it gets out of it, if any, and what increasing the graphics card in your computer will do for you. So considering my graphics card at the moment is about 4 or 5 generations behind current tech, I'm expecting quite a bit of an improvement. However, it would be interesting to see what this actually comes up with. Okay, so let's get on with some testing. Okay, so this is FurMark, and as you can see from the list of GPUs in the top, I simply have one, and it quite readily identifies my Nvidia GeForce GTX 680. Now I've already run the preset for 720, so that's running 1280 by 720, and I've also done the preset which is 1920 by 1080, and they've come out at quite a decent score. However, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to run the GPU stress test at the native resolution of my monitor, which is 1920 by 1200. Anti-aliasing was off for both of the presets, so I'm going to do it off this one as well. But you do have the option to change it to 2 times anti-aliasing 4 times and 8 times, and I will do those respectively. Now I will run the test for a minute, which is how long those two were running for, and I will actually record some of this as well, so you can actually see what this looks like. It's really quite funny, but it does use fur, oddly enough, in the graphic test. So let's start off with anti-aliasing off, and let's take a look at it. Okay, so here we are with FurMark. I've set up with my native resolution, which is 1920 by 1200. Anti-aliasing is at 8 times, and I'm going to hit custom preset, and you can see what this looks like. Okay, you get the really obligatory warning saying this is going to burn in test and at your own risk. It could overheat if you're overclocking, that kind of thing. I don't bother with overclocking myself. I generally stick with stock, and I generally don't have any problems, and I still get decent bits out of it. But let's have a go. Now, I can't record this at the same time as running it, but as you can see at the bottom, you have here the temperature of your CPU. Now, you can run it for a much longer period of time. Then you've got details up here, and it's saying how many frames it's rendered, how long it's been running for, what frames a second you're getting, which at the moment I'm getting 14 and the maximum of 15. Oh god. Yeah, so hopefully that will improve with the new graphics card. But as you can see, it just runs across for a minute, gives you a generalized benchmark of what you're going to get. At the moment we're standing at 73 degrees, 74. So far the temperature in the bottom left has gone up to 85 for an extended run. But yeah, as you can see, it's just coming to an end, and once it's finished in a couple of seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it gives you a nice little sort of idea of what it actually did and what temperatures you got, how well it performed, and that's fairly abysmal. Oh well, like I say, hopefully my other graphics card or my new graphics card will improve on that score considerably. Now, I'm not running anything higher than 1920 by 1200 purely because my monitor doesn't support it. So it's a bit of a shame, but it's plenty enough for me, and it's still, you know, a little bit more than 1080, so that's good. Okay, so next benchmark program, Heaven. Okay, so having to use my phone again to record the benchmarking process. Currently we're running at 720p, so we're on the low end, and we're getting about 100 frames a second. As you can see, it's going through the benchmarking process, and that's not doing too bad. Minimum frames per second 98.3. It's got 17 scenes to get through. Hopefully it will give us a good score at the end. Let's have a look. Okay, so at 720p at low, it gives us a mark of 14,168. So let's go back, knock it up to medium, and see what results that gives us. Okay, so less than impressive this time. It's at a resolution of 1920 by 1080. The results are quite a bit lower, quite a bit less than half actually. So it's gone down from 14,000 to 5,700, and the average frame rate was 43.35 frames a second, with a minimum of 35 and a max of 55. So it was slashed in half. So we'll go back and test it on high, and expect to get somewhere around the 25 mark, maybe. Let's see. Okay, so 1080p high, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Averaging 31 frames per second with a maximum of 38 and a minimum of 25. That's not too bad. Temperature reached 83, so let's just save that. And Put it on Ultra. Okay, and there we have 1080p Extreme, and yes, my poor old 680 really struggled with that. Minimum of 8 frames a second, average of 9, a maximum of 11. Temperatures are maxed out at 81 degrees centigrade, and it absolutely used 100% of the GPU. So that's pretty good as a test. So we can move on to perhaps a game. I think Kingdom Come Deliverance has a test in it somewhere. If not, I'm sure I've got one somewhere that will do it for me, and we'll have a look at what that can give us. Okay, so user bench gives you some quite interesting results. It tells you what your hardware is, which is quite nice. As you can see, I'm running an Intel i7 3770K, and that's performing good. I've got an Nvidia GTX 680, which isn't running quite so well, although I did do tests with DirectX 9 and 10, but not 11 for some reason. I've got as my main hard drive a Crucial BX500 and a SanDisk Ultra 2 for my secondary drive, and I've got a backup drive there for various files, and 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance. Oh look, performing below potential. That could be a bottleneck, but which is actually really quite useful. So yeah, I could invest in upgrading the memory in my computer to increase the performance of the memory. So it gives you quite interesting information, and to ask what games you play and what frame rates you get, so you add them. But that's a typical build. So look, typical CPU. So some quite interesting information, and that's actually quite useful. So on to test, say, Kingdom Come Deliverance, some Star Citizen, and possibly some Witcher 3. Okay, so here we are in Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, the nice thing about this is, and the nice thing about this particular test that I'm going to do, is what you're looking at is the menu screen when you first log into the game. However, it is a pre-rendered, or it's a rendered 3D screen, and it gives me an idea of how the current graphics card, my 680, is going to perform under different conditions. Now, it's also nice because I can actually go in here and I can say, hey, I want to change that from low, which it is at the moment, and it's giving me 51 frames a second, as it says down here. Oh, drop down to 50. So this one down here is coming from the overlay of GOG.com, and this one up here is the in-game version of frame rates for Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, at the moment, I'm getting around 50-51. If I knock it up to medium and confirm, yep, we can actually see how much of a difference that's going to make. Okay, so it's now dropped down about 8 frames. It's just knocked it up one sort of graphical level. So let's knock it up again. Let's give it 3 minutes. So 42, 43. So it's a low 40s. High. Yes. And again, we haven't lost as many. I would have thought we'd have lost a bit more than that, but we're still we're high 30s, 38, 39 there, which is quite nice considering the I'm running this at the native resolution of my monitor, which is 1920 by 1200, as you can see there. So 1920 by 1200. So that's on high. Let's put it on very high. Oh, and there's quite. Oh, actually, that's still not too bad. It has dropped down a little bit more. We're now low 30s, so we've lost about 5 frames a second there, and we're now running at around 32, 33. And can we do ultra high? This is experimental. So let's see, let's experiment. And 26 still isn't too bad considering the age of my graphics card. Now I imagine actually running around playing the game would be a lot more difficult, but because this is a fixed screen and I can't move, it does actually give me a good indication of what frames I'm going to get, and compared to a new graphics card. So let's kick out of this and go and have a look at The Witcher. Okay, so here I am in Witcher 3 The Wild Hunt, and I've turned on the good old games FPS counter, which is in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm currently at the low preset, getting 53 frames a second. I'm just going to have a quick wander around here. Oh, it's up to 57, 59, oh, 60, highs of 60, lows of 53. Let's have a quick nose outside. I'm taking a nice vista. It should. So it's still holding at 54, 55, 57, 58. Okay, so let's change the graphics settings. We go options, if I can actually use my mouse properly. And then go video, and then graphics. Ah, God, it's almost painful. Medium, and apply. Okay, so what a handsome devil he is. Let's have a look around. Still getting 52, 50, 54, 52. Putting up to medium hasn't changed that much. Down slightly to 49 there, but still holding steady around 50 frames a second. Oh, 46. A lower 46, highs of about 51. Okay, and 52. So let's go to options again, video, graphics. Let's put it on high. Okay, so there we go. There's just as handsome as he always was. Quick one around. Oh, so now I'll look at the graphics. The frame rate. Oh, you can see the jittering. Some missing bits and pieces there. Down to 36, 30. So still the highs of 30. I've seen 39 just cropped up there. Quick one, 40, 39. So yeah, but it's sort of now low 30s. Okay, and again we're going to knock the video up. That was on high, wasn't it? So let's go for ultra and see how awful the frame rate is with that. Yeah, down to 21, low 20s now. Oh, there's a 30 there, so if I just wander around this fire again. $24. Any advances on 24? No. Okay, so still in the 20s, but nearer the mid to low 20s there. So 26, 25, yeah. So 24. So that even on high resolution, but you can see the game is struggling, and I'm not getting a clear gameplay experience from that. So, okay, let's move on from The Witcher and let's go and have a look at Star Citizen. Okay, so we're now in Star Citizen. Now, Star Citizen, if you haven't played or you don't know anything about, it is a space trading combat simulator style game. And just like the other games, it comes with presets. So if we go to the graphics, once again running at 1920 by 1200, and it has a low preset. It has medium, high, and very high. So what we'll do is we'll log in. I believe we're in Port Olisar, and we will take some FPS readings. So we'll be going into the universe. That seems to be happening a lot, which is really annoying. The standard system, and we'll be using the EU region. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so I'm in game in Star Citizen, and in order to start, I'm getting about 40 frames a second at the minute. Up in the top right hand corner, it's very tiny writing, but I'm going to get out of bed. Now, it's interesting to point out that I'm actually playing patch 3.6 on the live. Let's just knock up the run speed. 29, 28, 27. So even on low settings, Star Citizen does actually give my old graphics card a good pound, down to 20. Oh, that's quite damning. 24. So if we come and stand in Port Olisar, have a nice look at that planet thing up there. We're getting about 29, 30 frames, 31 frames a second. So let's knock the graphics up if I can. Options, graphics. Let's go up to medium. Yes. Okay. Not entirely sure that's changed it, because we're getting the same thing. Getting the same readings. Let's just experiment with that quickly. Graphics. Let's put it on high. Oh, yeah, that's changed it. Look at that. Dropped down to 28. Yes, keep that. So, yeah. Yep, down to 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. 30, back up to 30. And then back down to 29, so yeah. So that's not terrible. Has to be said. Let's put it up to very high. Let's see how awful that is. Okay, I'm not believing those readings at all. I get the feeling I need to restart. There's some other things come up, but it's down to 24, 27. I might actually restart the game on each setting and see how that performs, but it's still getting around 30 frames a second, which I think is a bit suspect. But you can clearly see as I'm walking around. Oh yeah, look at that, that's terrible. Down 21, 20, 19. So yeah, I mean that is really unplayable like that. Okay, let's knock it back to low. Probably not the best benchmarking piece of software, but you know, I do a lot of Star Citizen for my channel, so it's worth having a look. Oh, we're back up to 34. So I'll quick look around. It's slightly better, not by much. That'll be interesting. I might actually do that separately. Still getting around 30, 29, 27 frames a second. Right, so here's my computer. Let's take the side off and have a look at the inside. And as you can see, yeah, it's quite old and dusty. There's my old 680, and there's cables there. Right, so I need to remove that screw there, and these two here. So there's the 8 block look, which comes as a 2, and then we've got the 6 block there, which has an optional 2. Right, okay, great. So we have the 2 connections we need. Now I did have a slight bit of panic because this old graphics card only has a DVI connection on it. It does have HDMI, I've just never used it. It's because I've never really bothered to change the cable. Right, now hopefully this is going to fit in. Is there some sort of clip that I need to... Or is that 2 screws? But that's 2 screws just there. Take that one out as well. Oh yeah, there we go. It's very dusty. Woohoo! Loads of dust. Let's put it on the motherboard. I bet there's some sort of clip in there. Either that or it's been welded in over time. Oh, there we go, it's coming. There we go. Oh, look at the dust on that. That's been in there for some time. Well, it is an old computer. Let's do that. Right, let's see if we can get this other one in. Right. Okay, so let's do a quick side-by-side comparison. And as you can see, they're not that much bigger. That one's obviously covered in dust. Look at the state of it. So let's bring that down so you can actually see that. So yeah, there's only a little bit extra in it, perhaps another inch maybe. So yeah, look at that. This is an old KFA, and it has done me well for 5 years. So once I've cleaned it up, it'll probably go in my daughter's machine. So let's get that one over there. It's covered in dust, it's disgusting. Right, and let's get this one in. So this is the PCI slot just here. Now I was worried that this is going to actually interfere. Let's get that. Blow some of the dust out of it. God, blimey. Now this, now I've taken the protective thingy off, which was on the bottom there, and all of the bits off of the end so they don't interfere with the ingress. We put this in simply like that, and the slots down nice and firm, and we can then put in the retaining screws like so to hold it in place, and there's 2 of those. And I actually had to take out this other blanking plate here so that I could actually get the card in and flush down, because it wasn't quite sitting right. So that one, and then one more screw. I will do them up in a second. And then once I get this back on the floor, okay, let's do that. Right, so power cables. Here we go. That was the 6, and that was the 8. So they should just. Do they slot in the other way round now? That could be interesting. So we have a square. Right, so that's the other way round. There we go. The problem is this is the other way round as well, isn't it? Because these are sort of have an oval top and a square. You have to match that up. So we've got oval top there, there. So this is going to be upside down to how it used to be. So let's get that in. That's a bit awkward. Trying not to disturb anything else in the computer. Again, that's quite fiddly. Let's have the 6 out. The 6 went in quite easily. let's do the 8 first. Okay, so once you get that in, it is fiddling. Let's get that extra, so look, there it is, it's in. And then the 6, there we go. Yeah, like so. There we go. And that's it. That's all plugged in, ready to go. Just nip these up, put the side on, and we're good to go and fire it up. Okay, so it is very dark under my desk, but as you can see, I've now got a nice glowy light with Gigabyte written on the side. So there, so we're up and running. I had a bit of a panic attack because when I booted the computer up to start off with, it just seemed to stop at the BIOS screen and do nothing, but eventually it did move forward and I'm back in Windows. Now I have had to set up the same Nvidia drivers that I used for the previous test, and originally when I booted in it wouldn't give me the same screen resolution, but now the drivers are in, it has now given me the option for 1920 by 1200, so I'm ready to start doing some tests with the new graphics card. Okay, so here we are back in FurMark, and as you can see, it quite rightly identifies my new RTX 2060 Super, and I'm just going to run the first preset. Now, I wasn't able to record the video while I was doing this, I had to use my phone, so I'm probably going to have to do that again. So, let's get on with it and see what we get as a result. Okay, so this is the highest setting that FurMark does, and we are running at 1920 by 1200, and we are at 8 times anti-aliasing, and we're currently getting 47, 49, 51 ish, so a minimum of 47, a maximum of 51, but an average of 48 frames a second. The temperature is about 70, it's just gone up to 70 degrees. But it's a lot cooler than my old 680 used to run at. That's not surprising because of the amount of dust that was in it. So we can have a quick look at that, zoom in there. That's up to 71. There you go, you can see that. So there we go. Okay, so this is it booting up. Gives you a nice little blackboard loading screen, and then it kicks off into the benchmark. Right, so the FPS in the top right hand corner is about 47. The scene is a lot smoother. Before I think I was getting about 20 frames a second whilst doing this. So it's utilization is 99%, temperature is 70 so far. Loads of frames, loads of surfaces, loads of light sources and triangles and God knows what else. There's quite a lot of information up here in the top right hand corner. As you can see, GeForce RTX 2060 Super shows you the frequency it's running at, the memory, temperature and the FPS and all the rest of it, and how many scenes you've got to do before it finishes the benchmark. So let's go back and wait for the results. And so there we are. At 1080p extreme, we had a minimum frame rate of 31, an average of 40, and a maximum of 51, with an overall score of 4000, which is still pretty good. GPU temperature was up to 74 degrees C, and GPU utilization, just as it last was up to 99. However, whilst looking at it on the extreme, as you probably saw in the video that was just before, on my phone you could see that the scene was nice and smooth. On my old card it really struggled, and I was getting a really low frame rate. In fact, I think it was probably something daft like 9 frames a second. So yes, so there is a definitive improvement there. But on to user benchmark for the next test. So here we are at user bench, and as you can see, things have improved by quite a bit. Now, gaming is now recorded at 102%, whereas previously it was only 47%. The desktop overall score was given 58%, has gone up by 6, and Workstation was 39, has gone up by 6 as well. So if we scroll down, now the CPU has gone up by 3 points from 66.9 to 69.7. It has gone up a little bit. The graphics card obviously 134% up from 48.3. Yes, well, that was expected considering the difference in architecture and generation. But memory still holds at 33. That's actually gone down by 0.2% from 33.5 to 33.3, and that's probably where my bottleneck is in processing. So this is a really useful tool for having a look at your system and seeing where things are going badly. And even though I'm using SSDs, it's saying, hey, you're actually well below on your hard drives here. Obviously on my memory as well. So, but hey, look, not bad for an old CPU. That's so that's God knows how many generations out of date as well. So yeah, overall, quite an improvement on user bench. But what about real world games? So let's have a look at Kingdom Come Deliverance, some Witcher 3 with a Wild Hunt, and Star Citizen. And here we are back in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and this time we're testing the 2060 RTX. And as you can see from the top left and the bottom right, so the bottom right, just to remind you, is the frame rate recorded by goodoldgames.com, and the one on the top left is the in-game one that is part of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now then, settings. Graphics settings, everything currently is on low. We are at 1920 by 1200. If we go back and kind of look at the advanced graphics settings, there's no anti-aliasing and everything is on low. Object distance is right down, load distance is right down as well, and vegetation distance is, well, that's pretty non-existent, and motion blur is full. So let's put this up to medium. I said medium. And let's see that reset. And with medium, we are still just below 60, 59.9. We're still getting 60 from good old games. Oh, look, it's gone up. There it is, it's settled in. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the advanced settings, see what that actually gave us. So everything's on medium, but this time we have 1x anti-aliasing. Load distance, so object distance is up and load distance is up a little bit, but vegetation draw distance is still down, and motion blur is still full. So let's go to the graphics settings here and go to high. Let's confirm that. Yes, please. And wait for it to settle in, and we are still getting 60 frames a second from both. Looking at the advanced settings, everything is on high. We are still on 1x anti-aliasing. Object distance is right up. It's now sort of looking the medium middle of the bar. Load distance is up a little bit further, and vegetation draw distance for the first time has actually gone up a little bit. So let's go back, graphics settings, go to very high, confirm, yep. And let's settle in, and we are still getting 60 frames a second. In fact, we've gained a frame on the bottom right hand corner. We've now got 61, which is fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look at the graphical settings here. So everything is very high. We're still on 1x anti-aliasing. Object distance hasn't changed that much, but the load distance has. Vegetation draw distance has gone up a little bit. So let's go back, go to graphics settings and ultra. This is experimental, intended for future hardware. Well, before this was written a year or so ago. So yes, this is now future hardware, matey. Okay, so, and we are still getting 60 frames a second. We've gone up to 65. Look, honest, in ultra settings, and so that's 1x anti-aliasing. Everything is on ultra high. The object distance is almost up to the top. And, well, okay, so let's just go with changing that to, okay, so it looks like 2x is the most. Let's whack the object distance right up. Let's whack up the load distance and the vegetation draw distance. Let's go straight to the top. Let's confirm. So yeah. What do we get now? We still get from in-game 60 frames a second, but in the bottom right, GOG.com is recording 66, 65 frames a second, which is a huge difference compared to what my old graphics card, the 680, used to do. Okay, so let's move on to the Witcher. And still testing the 2060 RTX. I will get that right at some point, and having a good look at Geralt. We are actually in low resolution at the moment. So we are here. Minimum frames per second, maximum frames per second is 60. So we're only going to get 60. But if we can keep that at ultra, that would be amazing. Okay, so we are currently at low. Let's apply that. So, and then if we go back, and then press Control Shift Tab, we then get the frame rate at the bottom right hand corner from GOG.com, which is 60 frames a second. So I'll have a quick tour of the room, and it's holding steady, no wavering. Looking at the fire. Went up by one frame a second. Excellent. Okay, and then back out and have a look around the scenery below. Lovely. Right, so then let's go to the options here. Video, graphics, and then medium. Let's apply those. And see where that gets us. Okay, still holding steady at 60 frames a second. Quick tour of the room, looking at the fire. Still no fluctuation there. Quick look at the scenery. And back, and then next. Options, video, graphics, high. Let's apply that. And go out. Okay, so still at 60 frames a second. Now, The Witcher is a few years older than Kingdom Come Deliverance. So, a quick tour of the room and back out to have a look at some of the vegetation. Ground, still looking good. Excellent. Okay, so let's then go options, video, graphics, and then go to ultra. Let's apply that. Okay. Back, and resume. Still getting 60 frames a second, look at that. Quick tour of the room. And there is no drop. Right, let's see if we can push that up. Options, video, graphics. So we're on ultra. 6 frames per second. The right resolution, full screen. Nvidia Hairworks, let's bring it up to 8. Let's put everything up as high as it will go. It's already as high as it will go, and that's on Ultra. That's amazing. So all I've had to do is knock up the Hairworks. Yeah, that's unreal. So it makes Geralt's hair look that much better, does it? I've actually gained 4 frames a second by doing that. Okay, so excellent. So running The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, at maximum FPS, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's an amazing game. Let's face it, the Witcher series is. Okay, so next on to the most controversial test, and that is Star Citizen. Right, so we are in Star Citizen, and we are on low graphics settings. So these were the settings that I played on my 680, and we have 60 frames a second. That's the most I've ever seen. So let's get character out of bed, because, you know, look, wearing armour. Everyone goes to bed wearing armour. It's just perfectly normal. And have a quick look around. Oh, a bit jerky there, down 55. Now, you've got to remember that Star Citizen is an alpha game. It is not optimised in any way, but running around, we're down to 41, 39 there. Let's dive through the window. Yeah, all down to 33. Look at that. So, and back up to 55. Let's quickly run around a bit. That's about 20 frames more than I was getting when I was on my 680. Remember, I'm testing the 2060 RTX at the minute. Okay, so let's play with the settings. Let's go options, let's go from low to medium. Okay. Okay, still getting 59 frames a second. Let's quick dive around, down to 39 there, 36. But overall still pretty good. Okay, well, let's knock it up a bit more. Options, graphics, medium to high. Now this is where it's going to start telling. Yeah, down to 40, 49, 50, 51, and if we start running around, down to 34. So I back up to 40, so yeah, it's late 30s on high, which is still better than my old 680. And then when we're just looking at the planets, we're up to 46. So then we will go for graphics, and we will go for very high. That's very high, as in don't want the motion blur. Oh dear. How do I choose very high? Let's go low, because it seems to have compressed the screen a little bit. Oh, that's awkward. How do I change it? How do I get it up to high? To very high. I was able to do this before. Oh, it just doesn't want to go down. That's really infuriating. It's because it's on that. Let's see if I can change the screen resolution to help. Let's do it down. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so with a little bit of jiggery pokery with the screen resolution, I was able to get it up to very high. Let's have a look. So we are now down to 40 frames, 41, 42-ish. Just looking at that, let's have a quick run around. Yeah, some down to 29 in the red, sub 30, so it's still not terrible. Back up to 40. Quick run around here. Let's really test this bit. Let's really spin it around. So if you're getting motion sickness, I apologise. Still mid 30s. Is not bad. Not bad at all. So yeah, quite an improvement there. But like I say, you have to remember Star Citizen is not an optimised game. It's still in alpha, so all the same, that's still pretty good. Okay, so let's wrap this up and do a conclusion. And so we come to a conclusion, and what we're looking at are the average FPS scores for the two different graphics cards that were tested, and that is my old GTX 680 and the 2060 RTX Super. Okay, so there is quite a generation gap, so I would like to think there was a big improvement, and surely enough there was. So let's start off with the FurMark score. So starting off at low at 720p, you have for the GTX 680 a 78 frames a second, which is the average, and a 251 frames per second average for the 2060. But then as you increase the amount of load on it, the poor old GTX got down to 14 frames a second when anti-aliasing ×8 was introduced at 1920 by 1200. However, the RTX Super brimmed through it with 48 frames a second, which is still very playable. Then again, we move on to the Superposition, and once again, GTX 680 had at the low settings had 105 frames per second compared to 142, but then at the extreme settings it had 9 frames a second compared to 40. And moving on, user bench, quite interesting, gave me a 42% rise in actually that's not right, that was 130, I believe. No, it's 102, yeah, 102. So it's 134 on the GPU, that's what I was thinking of. So from 60 to 102, giving me a 40% rise. Desktop and Workstation, for some reason desktop went down rather than up, and no, I haven't got those figures the wrong way around. Workstation went up by 5%. CPU, for some reason, went up by 3%. But obviously GPU, massive changes there, 90% increase, which is quite good. But then let's take a look at the games. We had a look at Kingdom Come Deliverance, Witcher 3 and Star Citizen. Kingdom Come Deliverance at low gave 50, so that was sort of preset low settings, but the RTX Super gave 60 across the board for everything. I even ramped up everything as high as it could go, and it still gave me 60 frames a second. Witcher 3, again, giving me 60 frames a second for everything compared to our poor old GTX 680, which on low Ultra gave me just 26 frames. Okay, Star Citizen, a bit of a wild card Star Citizen because it's still in alpha, it's not an optimized game, and it isn't complete, so I wasn't expecting it to give me particularly great results, but the GTX 680 did really well. I'm really surprised. I mean, it did manage to drop 4 frames at very high, and it was quite bad though. It was quite jittery compared to the RTX Super, which still managed to get over 32 frames per second, which is fantastic. But even so, I probably won't be playing it on very high until it's optimized or I get a better graphics card in the future. So, thank you for watching. I hope this has been useful. I hope you found it informative. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification icon as well. Keep up to date with our videos. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.